Happy to report that the town has received a $500,000 grant award. The maximum amount that that the state awards municipalities through the Green Communities program. This grant is for energy efficient HVAC systems at the future community center building. And we're seeking the board's vote of approval this evening to accept this grant. Upon acceptance, we will sign a contract, send that back over to the state. They'll provide the town with 25% of that award amount. And then we'll continue with future distributions up until August of 2025, when the project needs to be completed and we close everything out through the grant contract. Should there be a situation where there are delays or a building isn't built, that initial 25% that the state sends to us, we just have to send that back to the state, just have to return the money, no additional penalties associated. So this was a great effort between the building committee and the capital budget committee last year in putting together the materials for this, getting it through, and ultimately getting approval.
Right. I think it's a phenomenal effort. And based upon the outcome of our meeting on Monday night and the timeline we're headed towards, it appears that unless something drastically goes wrong, that we would have the building completed in time to use 100% of this grant. So I agree. It was a fantastic effort by capital budgets, the building committee, the town. We're starting to get really good at these green community grants, and I think it's really a best practice the way when we look at capital replacements that we're constantly trying to see if there are ways to use these grants and reduce our carbon footprints. So great job. Bob, John, do you have any comments?
Robin, have we kept sort of a running total of grants that we've been requested and have approved and have accepted and have gotten? I mean, because there's just been a streams, over the last couple of years. Chris, do you know what the number is?
For the past,
top of your head,
it's depending on the clarity that I get from the state, hopefully soon, as I've been banging down their door, at least in the past 3 years, we're nearing $6 million in grant awards. We keep a list, not necessarily of all the grants that we apply for, but all the grants that we get.
Yeah. That's a big number.
A very big number.
And I'm sure it helps us accomplish some very nice community-oriented activities. And are most of them around energy, or is it wider spread?
Most will be around infrastructure.
Well, that's terrific. And I was impressed with the amount of paperwork that it took to get this done.
Right.
About 20 pages of paperwork. So thanks to all.
Right, Chris, it reminded me of when we interviewed you, and one of our goals was, we had rarely applied for grants prior to you coming on board. So, you really have been a big part of changing the culture and making us aware of what's available. So really, thank you for your efforts.
And I think finally, the other side of that coin is, we sort of housed part of this activity in the capital budget committee, and it seems
it works.
Yeah. And so that combination has had some spectacular success. Again, congrats to all. And thank you for all the work.
Yeah. John?
Agreed. Very well done. And I am happy to make the motion if you would like.
That would be fantastic.
So I move to accept the Massachusetts Green Communities competitive grant for the Community Center Building Project.
I second the motion, and I point out John only makes the motions when we're taking in money.
So, and I will take a vote. All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
All right, great. And now on to item 1.2. Just bear with me a minute. Ah, there we go.
Is that about page 20 or 22 or something in there?
I know that's the problem. I scrolled back up for the agenda and then. So item 1.2 is a discussion regarding the contract negotiations between Dover Sherborne Regional School and the DSCA. So at the last meeting, I had mentioned to you that they had contacted me to let me know that there was another contract negotiation underway, and I was playing telephone tag with Maggie Sharon. Well, it turned out when I did finally connect with her, there was a meeting the next day. So I attended the meeting. And
Sounds like we have our nominee.
I nominate Robin.
well, that's what I was going to say. They said to me, you have all the history.
So Robin, I think, I mean, to be serious for about half a second, I mean, this would be your third?
Fourth.
As representing the town from.
Yeah, right.
And I know you and I did too prior to that.
Right.
Is that it? 5 all in, or was there?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So for clarity purposes, one of the questions I had about this was we talked a little bit at our last meeting about how the process has changed since we moved away from interest-based bargaining.
Right.
And I was talking, I had a one-on-one meeting with the town administrator yesterday, and I know how we got sort of started with having selectmen. Town administrator yesterday, and I know how we got sort of started with having selectmen. Town administrator yesterday, and so what was that feedback?
So I had a hard time hearing you. So can you just repeat what you said?
Yeah, it was, but I had like an echo come through.
Right, but now it's
I just clicked on the Facebook link and I guess the audio was pushed.
Okay. So I know how this started. I mean, my first contract negotiation, the Board of Selectmen did not participate. And then I thought, a certain Robin Hunter and a certain Bob Springer thought it would be important to have a Board of Selectmen at the second one. I think Carol Lisbon sat in on that one.
I think there was always a selectman on, because I remember Carol. So there's always a selectman, but only one of the towns can vote. So, and we alternate.
Okay, but the first one I went to, there was no selectman.
All right, you could be right.
The one that you and I did together, that one, I think we had Carol on that one. I agree with that.
Right.
And then I think you're right. I think one of the selectmen can vote and they alternate.
Right.
And so my discussion was, it wasn't clear to me at the time when I was speaking yesterday, I thought that the selectmen didn't have a vote. And if that were the case, which it is not, it wasn't clear to me why we would be necessary, because most of the time all of the work is done by the regional school committee who is picked to do the negotiation. Right. And in your experience, how is the Board of Selectmen, sort of what is the role of that? What is the role that the Board of Selectmen play? So
I think the role the Board of Selectmen plays is really to give a sense to the DSCA and on the state of affairs in the town, and how this contract is just one piece in the puzzle, and how we're managing a lot of different things. And we have to make sure that we have limited resources, and we have to figure out how best to spread those resources. And so I think it's a message that is consistently discussed during the negotiations. And I really do believe it helps the school committees as well, because even when you go back into deliberations and you're discussing the various options that are on the table, it always comes back to both representatives from Dover and Sherborne saying, listen, this is not going to work with the overall budget that we're trying to come in at.
Okay.
And trying to find solutions. So I think it's really helpful to the committee because otherwise they're negotiating in a vacuum.
Yes, that clearly is how I felt in the first time I did it a long time ago. Thank you. So I move to appoint Robin Hunter to serve as the Selectmen's liaison to the town's negotiating team.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully it will be not as onerous as last time.
No, and that's what they said. And they promised if I was in Europe, they wouldn't have any meetings. And
Oh man, they really buttered you up, huh?
right.
Bob, the only thing I can add, will add to
And they
that.
promised that they'd get good the snacks I liked. And
No, that's
there
not
were
going to happen.
A lot of promises.
That's a broken campaign promise right away. Bob, I will add the context is critically important because I've done 2 police and 2 DPW, so highway, and to be able to go into the meeting with the context of the past 2 negotiations, being the liaison, really helpful. It really, really is helpful. In the past, it has gone really well with both police and DPW because of that. It's a big.
You were number 2 in my choices.
No, Robin's got the experience. She's our person for this.
Well, it was so
I
funny
absolutely
because
agree.
George Merrill was there and he goes, Robin, if they got me to do it again.
But John, I 100% agree that having some continuity
Yeah.
is a big advantage, and having the history and knowing, I don't know, we're dealing with the teachers on one side, or are we dealing with a negotiator? Robin.
It's back to, so there's the negotiator with the teachers,
Okay. And
and the first time we did this, it was really difficult. But we actually have the same representative from the DSCA, from the MTA. So it's the same person that did it last time, and he was really reasonable, and we were able to negotiate things much more efficiently than the time before. So it took a lot less time, and we're expecting that, and the teachers are expecting it as well. So
good to know. Thank you for stepping up. Or being shanghaied. I don't know which is the right word.
right. Well, the big mistake was saying, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you had a meeting. I'll just attend this one." So Kate, the next item of business is the non-union market increase recommendation and a potential vote.
Yes, good evening. Just give me a minute to get it up on the screen.
Yeah, we're all having technical problems.
All right. There we go. Is everyone able to see that?
Yeah, that looks great.
Great.
Okay. Well, it's that time of year again. It's fall. Falling leaves, pumpkin spice, budget season, which is Chris's favorite. Mona hates nothing. She hates everything about fall, so I can't really reference anything. But this also brings the annual COLA conversation. So I met with the personnel board earlier this week, and I'm here tonight to present to you their recommendation. But I'm also going to present 2 other options that for the board to consider as well. So back in the spring, when we brought our classification and compensation study before the Personnel Board and the Board of Selectmen, we mentioned that one of the goals also was to refine the process. And we proposed this to the board and to the Personnel Board, which was also supported by the board. And one of the goals was to make the process more predictable and manageable for staff and policymakers. So the first step for this was to get rid of the word COLA. It is not a COLA. It doesn't reflect really cost of living. So I think this is important. And so for now, rest in peace, we are calling it the market adjustment, annual market adjustment. And come to find out, I've been talking to a lot of municipalities throughout this process, and that is really where they're headed as well. They do not even call it a COLA anymore for the same reason we're not going to be calling it a COLA anymore. So we also think this sets realistic expectations for staff. So in our compensation classification plan, we worked out that during this time, during the summer and during September and October, HR would work with the Personnel Board to look at the various factors that go into determining the percentage increase. Then we'd make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and the Warrant Committee. I just want to note that I did send the Warrant Committee this information, so I'm just waiting to hear back when they schedule a meeting for this presentation. So the three factors that go into really determining this is the union increase. Again, I talked to many of our Norfolk County communities, plus our comparable communities, and that is the number one thing that they look to in determining this figure. So they look at see what their unions are getting. Again, so the second factor would be looking to see what our neighboring comparable communities are doing. And then there's the economic factors, which we don't really have any control over, but it's always good to keep them in mind as well. So here's what we're working with this year. So we only have one union number in for FY24, and that is our Highway, Parks and Rec and Building Maintenance Union, and that is a 3% they'll be getting for FY24. Now our neighboring comparable communities, it's a little bit more complex. We also listed, in addition to our 9 comparable communities that we use for compensation and classification, we reached out to all our Norfolk neighbors. So the average of the ones that have reported so far is 2.5%. Now, this includes only 12 out of the 22 reporting. This is because communities are really just like us, where they haven't made the decision yet. They make the decision in the spring. This is due to them having a fall town meeting, or different budgeting schedules, different forms of governments. They could be a city. So there's a lot of different factors on when communities make this decision. So for right now, that is our most current data. So right now, the comparable communities, we have a 2.5%. And then to confuse us even more and complicate this process, the economic factors. So we have our COLA CPI increase. This is sources from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Consumer Price Index. For the Northeast region, it was last year, it was 7.4. It was 5.9 in December. The Social Security, which relies on the CPI data, was 5.9 last year, and right now it hasn't been released. So I think it should be released soon, in a week or so. So again, we're just taking these all into consideration. So the Personnel Board on Monday met, and they voted for a proposed non-union FY24 market increase of 3.5. And that is coming from the Personnel Board. They took the last slide, all those 3 factors, and that was their vote. We also have 2 other numbers in there, options to consider. Again, in our new class and comp plan, we really wanted to try to keep it predictable and stable and kind of the same process. So, from the town administration's office, we definitely would go for the 2.5 for you to consider. Again, that's based off our comparable and neighboring communities. But there's also, if we wanted to keep it, the equity in town and do the same thing as a union, you have a 3%. So yeah, there are a lot of different, I know there's a lot of things that go into making this decision. The plan was to really make it more manageable, setting expectations for staff, and we want managers to be able to put in a number early for budgeting. So those were our goals for this process. And that is the end of my presentation.
So thank you, Kate. That was a really good presentation. So as I looked at the presentation and looked at the other things that were presented, it seemed to me we spent a lot of time designing a new process and also making sure that all of our salaries were competitive. And the new process, one of the things we really wanted to get out of it was to take away the subjectivity and to make it more of a disciplined approach. So with that in mind, I want to respect the process, and I would like to, and in my opinion, the town administrator's recommendation makes sense. Let's give this process a chance, see if it works. Bob?
I think this is a hard thing to do on a consistent basis. And I think that the work that Kate and people have done over the past year, the whole compensation review and et cetera, I mean, it's a really good way to go forward, really good way forward. I always, in periods of high inflation, and we're not anywhere near the high inflation of the 70s. It's hard to make a real sort of data-based judgment. We're suffering a great deal, the world's suffering from the economic disruption of COVID, supply chain screw-ups because China's, on and off, et cetera, et cetera. So I think trying to opine about what this should or shouldn't be is just difficult. I happen to look back. I look back over the from 2009 to 2020 on the cost of living adjustments, the word we don't use anymore, for Social Security. And over that 12-year period, Social Security recipients got 1.375% on average. So, I'm sure it'll go up this year because of all the disruption. So when all is said and done, I mean, it seems to me I sort of favor what neighboring communities are doing, and so I'd also be a proponent of taking the 2.5% that the town administration is I guess favoring. Hey, John, just a question for you. The non-union contract for the highway guys, wasn't it like 2.5, 3 or something? So, I mean, I think that averaged out more like 2.5 over the 3 years. And we're just looking at that last year. So I'm pretty comfortable with 2.5.
Yeah. And Bob, I'll just go back to our previous discussion from the last segment and the context. And one of the good things about the context, and one of the key words, the word that I really like in this is market, because I've shared this with everybody on the call this evening, to really get a sense of the market. For the last time we did the highway, I called 12 or 13 different union and non-union companies, private and public. So from construction companies to trucking companies to excavation companies and companies that where you had to have a class 3 operator's license to be an eligible employee, just like our guys. So I really tried to drill down and make it apples to apples. and really had to get to the market for that particular skill level of person. So I really like the idea of framing it in market context. So I agree with both of you.
All right. So again, thank you for your work. So you want us to vote? So I will make a motion. I move to approve a fiscal year 2024 market increase of 2.5% for the town's non-union staff.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springer.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Great.
Thanks,
you.
Kate.
Kate, we came a long way. Remember how hard it was for us to understand the process when you first explained it to us?
Kate, you've done very well with us. You're very patient.
Right. We finally got it. And I do want to, that was a really nice looking PowerPoint presentation. Very, very nice.
I appreciate
very
it.
Impressive.
It's a blessing and a curse that I'm so good at it, but you know.
The colors worked well. Everything worked. It projected well. So the next item on the agenda is the creation of the management analyst position, discussion and potential vote. Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Robin. So the board has a policy where any position changes or departmental reorganizations that are recommended should go before the board for review, for discussion, and your ultimate approval. So I'm here this evening to request that the board approve us changing what was our junior project manager position to a management analyst position. As you recall, this position was originally the web and IT coordinator position that was years ago responsible for coordinating updates to the website and just helping out with general IT responsibilities. Over the past few years, we've matured where Kate has developed a team that has taken the responsibility of the website updates, and we have been leveraging contracted services, especially recently, to help service our day-to-day IT needs. So with those responsibilities taken care of, as you remember last year, we tried to hire a junior project manager position to help support the municipal project manager position, which Dave Sullivan was filled that role to support our IT-based projects. We found that it's difficult to recruit IT-based positions. There are a whole host of factors that kind of are working against municipal governments. We're not alone in this regard. And so we've had an opportunity to take a few months to, since Dave's departure, to think about how best to structure ourselves moving forward. And so given that we've got our website updates pretty much well covered across multiple people in the organization, given that Retrofit has been doing a pretty stellar job over the past 2 months, serving as our IT support specialists, both on-site and virtually. I thought what would make sense is to repurpose that role. It'll still be in essence, a junior project manager position, but that's a title that's unfamiliar to people who are either looking to get into local government or government in general, or people who are already in government and are looking to, to continue to build their skills and get their experience. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to retitle the position to a management analyst. It's a title and a term and a position that many are familiar with. Many communities have a management analyst position. And it's really kind of an all-purpose position, helps with special projects, whether that be budget, whether that be procurement, or IT-related project implementation. So I think just by this simple retitle and less of an emphasis on the day-to-day IT-related responsibilities, I think will be successful in recruiting a candidate to fill that role and come on board and help support all the special projects that we have going. The other nice thing about a management analyst position is oftentimes these people who fill these roles are individuals that are looking to grow and stay within organizations and fill other roles. And so as the board looks to succession planning and has emphasized the importance of succession planning, especially now, I think building and creating or titling roles like this will allow us to, bring people in that will hopefully, not only stay, but potentially grow within the organization. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm looking to retitle the IT support specialist / project manager position to a management analyst position. If I get the board's approval this evening, Kate will wrap up the draft position description that I've put in your packet. We'll put that into the town's form and we'll begin recruitment for it as soon as possible.
So Chris, I think this makes a ton of sense. And, the job description, when I looked at it, I think it really covers the areas that we're looking for somebody to help fill. So I definitely support this, and I hope that it does, by just tweaking this role and this job, we'll get good, we will have better candidates applying for it. So I fully support this title change.
So you answered the question in your long-winded description. So what we're coming up with is sort of a really good thing here. When we hired Dave and we thought about the replacement, the second analyst position, there was a heck of a lot of ground we had to cover on the IT side.
Right.
And after a couple of years here, thanks to a lot of people, but Dave did hold a lot of weight. Seems to me that having a generalist who can do projects across the organization is a big plus, and I think it reflects the progress made on the IT side, the progress made with the website. So that all very much makes sense to me, and I think having people with good analytical skills and good communication skills is just a terrific asset for the town. So yeah, I support not just the name change, but I support the growth and direction that this position will represent.
I mean, it looks like a really fun position for somebody who's energetic and wants to do different things.
It reminds me of a certain guy named Bob when he was a junior G-man at a certain financial firm in New York.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, we didn't even have desks. We had to sit under teepees and sort of hang out. They literally had hand crank calculators in the accounting department.
I'll bet you had like an abacus or you probably had a slide rule, like the kind that went on your belt back in those days.
There was a guy in data processing who ran around with his slide rule.
Okay,
he was in charge of it.
Gentlemen, John.
Sorry about it, Chair.
He started it. He
did start it, and you engaged him. So now we're going back to agenda item 1.4.
I have two quick questions for Mr. Dwelly.
Okay.
That relate to salary. Chris, is the salary in your mind commensurate with what is required out there?
It is.
Okay. It's just, it's the timing, like we're finding ourselves in times of inflation. There's a knee-jerk reaction where people think immediately we have to offer more money, and it's not necessarily the case. But I just want to be sure that we are in line with where you think we should be.
Yep, we contacted a handful of neighboring communities who have this position and made sure that we were right there with the salary, and we are.
In the job goal, Chris, and obviously you're the evaluator, you're the town administrator. Wouldn't wouldn't Dave's management, wouldn't the analyst be under Dave's old position and report up through him?
Yeah, so that's that's a great question. When we originally repurposed this position the first time, there was a heavy focus on IT, and
Right.
given municipal project managers one of their core focus was on IT, it made sense for them to report up to that position.
Yeah.
Now that we've, I guess, maybe generalized the position to be more, administrative and operational, I think it makes sense for it to live within administration. That's not to say that there aren't future opportunities for us to see if that fits a little bit better under, either the municipal project manager or a potential repurposing of that position that, I may come to the board with, or under the assistant town administrator. There's certain flexibility, but I think at the outset right now, given that we've generalized it and given that we are having difficulty recruiting for the municipal project manager, I think it makes sense right now for it to live under the administrative umbrella.
The municipal project manager, Dave's old position, is currently at 95, and you foresee this being a 65 to 75,000.
I'd give it a range of like 55 to high 60s.
High 60s. Okay, got it.
Because I think it's just a more junior person, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
I think that Chris is spot on this. I think that, again, it reflects the maturing of the organization a little bit. And Dave was IT heavy. It was necessary at the time, but we could easily, sort of take this position as the MPM and broaden that as well. Because technology is just a tool. Right. What we really want to have is a couple of people who can do broad-based analytical project work that would include the different tools. So I think as we mature, we have to be flexible in how we organize the staff, organize the skill sets, and you don't want too many people reporting directly to the administrator, because he's only one guy and there's only 5 days.
That's what I was thinking, Bob. And Chris, would you say a master's level candidate versus a master's degree? If it was a person who has gotten out of school, is with an organization, public, private, doesn't matter, finds they really like this area, they want to get in possibly a master's in public administration, could that person be a successful candidate with the intent to get a master's degree versus a requirement that they already have it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's also the possibility that there are candidates who might not actually have any interest in pursuing a master's degree, but are just, excellent candidates. And so we always word our position descriptions, as Kate can elaborate on, to make sure that we have flexibility. So it's preferred. There's words such as preferred master's degree, a combination of education, experience, and other criteria, so that we don't necessarily box ourselves into a really stringent, entry-level set of requirements that we can't ultimately end up recruiting for or filling.
Got it. So
do we make a
move?
No, so John was just getting his questions answered.
Okay.
I'll just say I would move to approve the management analyst job description dated September 27th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor, aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Done.
So when do you guys think you'll start recruiting? Immediately, or wait until January? Or
It's now in Kate's hands, but we would like to get it where the idea
yesterday.
is Yep.
So keep us posted. I I really hope this does the trick because we really need somebody like this.
Have a good feel. The third time's a charm, right?
Yep.
I hope you're right, Chris. I hope you're right. So the next item is to approve the contract between Carl Valente and the town of Dover for financial management consulting services. Oh, Chris, you have a busy night.
Yep. Though this one's, I think pretty easy. As we talked about over the past couple of months, we've been doing an effort to make sure that all our independent contractors and consultants have the appropriate contracts and have gone through the appropriate procurement process. Carl, started out 8 months with the town and is now entrapped for I think over 4 years now. His role has changed and morphed over the years, and he's been very successful over the past few years acting as our acting finance director. And so we just wanted to clean that up and make sure that his services were procured under that job that he's filling. And then ultimately we enter into a contract with him for those services. So the contract that's before you this evening has really no changes in terms of term, salary, or hourly rate, excuse me. We just clarified that rather than being a special projects manager, or I forget the actual title that he was under, now he's focused and responsible for all the acting financial related matters, the finance director matters.
So it's basically more of our administrative cleanup, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, he's assisting with that, and a lot of our forward-looking financial efforts. As you recall, he was a core part of the team that that made progress on the financial policies last year. So,
no, I was talking about the contract itself. It's just
I'm sorry.
just getting everything.
That's right. Yep.
All our I's dotted and T's crossed.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. I don't have any questions, Bob or John.
No.
So I don't have a particular question, but how many hours about is he putting in each week now?
7, 14, 21, between 21 and 24.
So about 3 days.
He can only put a total of 24 in.
Okay. Because I know, he's retired from 14 different places, and I'm sure he has to go out and play golf,
He alternates between babysitting and this.
He has many jobs now. Yes.
It's a full-time job.
Well, he's
we're very happy that he's chosen us as his second outlet.
his home away from home.
Right. So,
okay.
So I move to approve the agreement for financial management consulting services between the town of Dover, Massachusetts, and Carl F. Valente, effective October 6, 2022.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springer.
Hi, John Jeffries.
All right, thank you. I know, it's so funny. Carl was going to be here for a maximum of 6 months.
Yeah, that was 5 years
Give him
ago.
a retirement party.
I mean, in that June of that year, he had his bindle stick set. He was ready to go, hit the rails.
Right. Just
Carl.
life has a way.
Yes, it does.
Thank goodness, because he's helped us out a tremendous amount.
It really has.
No, he's been great.
This is about as much paperwork as we had on the grant for $500,000 for crying out loud.
Right. Well, So the next item on our agenda is to discuss the request for a waiver for Antonio. Is it Suarez or Swanez? Appointment to the cultural. Apologies for butchering your last name, to the Cultural Council and a potential vote.
Back to Chris.
Yeah, back to Chris. And Chris, you can tell me how to pronounce the last name.
I'm going to go with your pronunciation.
Sanez?
Yes, that sounds right. So Antonio was recommended by the Cultural Council maybe a month ago, and the board approved that appointment. After which it was discovered that he's not 18, and that requires just essentially a waiver of vote if the individual is not a registered voter, which is the requirement to serve on a town board or committee. So in your packet is the recommendation for that waiver from the chair of the Cultural Council. I also understand that the board has done this before for various folks in the community as well, to enable them to serve on boards and committees. I understand that Antonio is, actually, I shouldn't say I understand. I believe he's maybe a senior and in high school, and so yeah, he's getting there.
So
we need a waiver from the board to allow him to serve on the Cultural Council.
So I really support, here is somebody who's passionate, based upon the letter of recommendation. He was walking around Dover Days. It's hard to get volunteers for positions, and here's somebody who's extremely excited about it. And I think it will be a great addition to the Cultural Council, getting some input from the younger generation in Dover. And whether this is for a college resume, I just think it would be a wonderful experience, and I certainly support providing this waiver.
Yeah, Robin, it just seems like a win-win for the town, a win-win for the individual. I mean, it's 17, 18, it's pretty close.
Right. And John probably knows Antonio.
Everybody.
Do you, John?
I've got to ask my kids at the high school, and I don't know him, and I hopefully have had him in one of the classes, but I think I'm completely in favor for all the reasons you both said. So 100% move to accept or to amend the.
So I move to waive the requirement that Mr. Swan be a registered voter and allow him to serve on the Dover Cultural Council to fill an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
You can't second, you go third.
No, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay, boys, all in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Bob Springer.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Perfect. Maybe Antonio could call in and tell us how to pronounce his last name.
It looked like Sonia's, but I'm not,
You might be right.
We should definitely get the name right, though.
Right. Maybe Judy can tell us. So there's just a couple of, this is Board of Selectmen's items. It's 1.7. And believe it or not, Chris got this item number off. I'm it. So we need to, so it's just the Board of Selectmen's updates on various projects and initiatives. So I personally thought that our meeting on Monday night regarding a path forward for the Carroll Community Center was a very positive meeting. I think we got to the right place, and I see us finally having a path to move forward. I am working with Chris on an RFP to get the peer review going, which is something that we voted on. So, I need to give Chris some comments, and the idea is to get that started as soon as possible. The other thing we really need to talk about or think about and maybe vote on at another meeting is the timing of the special town meeting. I believe there's a consensus that we are all in agreement that we should have a special town meeting somewhere in the spring or the early or late spring. So either before or after the regular town meeting. The question is, when, and I would like to get that on the books as soon as we're all comfortable with what the right timing is for that special town meeting. I think the sooner we get it on the books, the better, because that way we'll have a goal to work towards. And, you always take as much time as you're given to get things done. So having an affirmative deadline has always worked for me.
Hey, Robin, what's the next steps in terms of sort of getting together a group to do this work? How long do you think that'll take? And so what's the target for getting the peer review done?
So they gave us a 3 to 4 week time frame. I'm going to get back to Chris, and I believe they can start almost immediately. So as soon as we get the wording of the RFP done, and I will look at it tomorrow so I can give it back to Chris, hopefully we could start probably not next week, but the week after, and then it's 4 weeks.
So before Thanksgiving.
Definitely before Thanksgiving, this should be wrapped up. Okay. And we know that it takes 5 months to rebid, right? So, in my mind, I was saying December is sort of a tough month to get people to do things. So, 5 months, if worst case, you're only starting January, gets you to May.
Get you to May, right?
Right.
Right.
We know the first Monday in May is our regular town meeting. I do think we should talk to stakeholders about maybe doing this meeting again on a Saturday. I think that worked really well. And then we should talk to both the town moderator as well as the town clerk about what dates make sense to potentially have this meeting, and coordinate with Park and Rec, the COA. I see Janet's on here, so get everybody's input. But I really do think we need to get this meeting on the books so that we can work towards it, so that we have a schedule on regular updates and how to keep the community informed of the progress that we're making.
So, I mean, I absolutely, so yes, I mean, there seemed to be a fair amount of misunderstanding on Monday about what the process is that people have to go through. And it clearly, anyway, and I think that certainly needs to be addressed. But if you go with the timeline that you just the rough timeline that you just articulated, if we're done with the peer review, before Thanksgiving or mid-November, I mean, the truth of the matter is very little gets done between Thanksgiving and New Year's in the United States. So I don't know how much actual work can get done. I mean, preparatory work can get done, or refined work can get done. But I don't know what, most of the world is working at half, and most of the United States is working at sort of half speed. So if you do take a start date on rebid, beginning of the new year, then you're in May. If it's a 5-month process, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like this can't get done before May, and we don't want to go beyond June. So from my perspective, it worked very well back in 2021 to have that. If we can do it, we should do it. I think we would agree, and I'm not going to speak for each of you, but I would do this as soon as we can. Once we have the bid for the option 1, once we have the option 2, once we've completed preparation for a town meeting where we're set up to be able to answer and anticipate people's questions, it's a go. So, but I think that at the very least, we should be willing to say, we we are committed to having a town meeting by mid-June at the latest. And that's
But I think, and maybe Chris, we could go back and talk to the town clerk and the moderator. I think it's helpful and it's less stressful if we could pick a date now so that everybody could plan for that date. Because town meetings, there's elections this year, there's going to be town meetings. It's just a lot for the town clerk. And so I think if we can, with her input, as well as the input of the moderator, input from the stakeholders, I just think it would be really beneficial to have a date and pick the date for the town meeting.
Yeah, I don't disagree. What I remember though is we had the town meeting in May 2021, and there's a lot of school-related activity in May. And so ultimately we chose, it was either the first or second week of June to have that follow-up special town meeting. So if you pick a date and stuff happens, then you're going to have to unpick a date.
Well, that's why I say let's pick a date with the stakeholders so we can, so not just randomly pick a date.
Oh yeah, right.
Speak to Park and Rec, speak to the COA, reach out to the schools, maybe the soccer club, just try, because if we can give them the heads up, then they can plan not to schedule things on that day.
Yeah. But I'm just going with the experience of the
right. And I think that's what we did last time. We coordinated.
Yes. John?
I agree.
All right. So then I'll reach out to I'll reach out to the town clerk. I'll reach out to the moderator. I'll reach out to COA. I'll reach out to Park and Rec. And does anybody know people in the lacrosse and soccer programs?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll do that.
Chris, do you have comments?
I was just gonna ask, does the board want to say generally this evening that, it sounds like there's been something thrown out about, the beginning of June as kind of a target for the special town meeting. And then, what we can do over the next few weeks before your October 20th meeting is, have the town clerk, have the town moderator look at, availability for, the field, inside, things like that, and then be able to kind of come present their findings to the board on October 20th. And then based at that point, you could, they say, here are the 2 dates that we can do it, or the 3 dates, it gives the board some options that, hey, things are available. The building team thinks that it'll be no problem to get everything done by then. We know that, most people are available. Maybe structure it that way.
I like that. Let's do it that way.
So the first 2 Saturdays in June are June 3rd and June 10th. I don't think you want to go beyond that.
No, I completely agree. Right.
All right. So we can maybe just use, that's maybe the starting point, right? June 3rd.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Thank you. So that was the big update that I had. I also wanted to acknowledge the Personnel Board Chair, Mary Kerrigan's resignation from the Personnel Board. And I wanted to really thank Mary for the many years of service on the Personnel Board.
How many, Robin?
Many.
Was it 20?
I've worked really closely with Mary on many personnel board issues. She's always been an absolute pleasure to work with. We have been extremely fortunate as a town to have her professional HR experience and expertise available to us. She was very helpful with helping design the town administrator evaluation process, and I just can't thank her enough for all her years of service. And I truly will miss working with her and wish her the very best in her retirement.
Yeah, I echo that and hope that whatever her plans are, that I'm sure that she has plans, and I'm sure she's looking forward to doing other things than helping the town of Dover. It's over 20 years. I happen to, by the way.
No,
And wish her well.
I'm sure it is too.
Wish her well in any endeavor or travel or education or however she wants to spend her free time.
I agree. She has been a big asset in the town of Dover, and really appreciate everything she's done. So I just agree with both of everything you've both said. Can Robin, is there anything else that you wanted to add for your side? I just wanted to give you a Hale update.
No, I was done. I was going to ask if anybody had updates.
So with regard to Hale, as you both know, Kristen and I have been meeting with Kristen and Rob from Westwood, and there are a couple of things, and then I'll just let Chris sort of fill in the blanks of anything I might have missed in this summary. But what we have been discussing is the juxtaposition of two things. One is the town of Dover has our needs, the town of Westwood has their needs. We're working together to codify and solidify those two needs, so we're speaking together to the Hale opportunity, right? And for many of the things we've already discussed, so you know where we are and that mindset of what we're trying to accomplish together. Having said that, we're trying to both talk through our list of priorities, meaning Dover's, Westwood's list of priorities that are maybe coming before a special town meeting or a town meeting in Dover and in Westwood, where we address the Hale financial commitment. As we've been discussing all night and have said on numerous occasions, we have a significant financial commitment that we have to address with the Carroll Community Center. We also have a significant financial commitment to Hale with the amount of money that Hale is asking for, as does Westwood. So that we don't want that to conflict with any of the other capital projects that Westwood has, capital projects that we have, and the capital project for the community center. So what we have to make sure we are in alignment is when we will bring the Hale presentation, the Hale opportunity to the town. Now, for the past 20 minutes, we've been talking about the timing of the special election, the special town meeting for Hale. For
the Carroll Community Center.
For the Carroll Community Center.
Okay,
we have to
John, you're not going to recommend a third town meeting in 2023 because I think the town clerk would have a heart attack.
Correct. Yep, correct. There's a lot of people that would have a heart attack. So here's what we have to think through. And Chris and I have had this conversation, and Chris has had this conversation with Chris from Westwood. And here is the other side of that. Hale has a board. The board at Hale is thinking through their needs, thinking through the value of what Hale has and the value of this conservation restriction that they're offering to Dover and Westwood. Hale's board is thinking this amount of money is the deal of the century for Dover and Westwood. They may be giving it away much too cheap. So that is certainly something they have to work through if they decide that it's really, they should be asking for more money from Dover and for Westwood. Now, That's just something internally that the Board of Hale has to deal with. Right now, they're standing by. They are standing by the $20 million commitment, right? However, that may change. If we, both Westwood and us, can't get our collective towns to vote on this, Hale may decide to take it off the table or to change the amount. So we have to be mindful that they're not doing this in a vacuum. They have one bite at this apple. They have to get it right. So we have to think about this opportunity is an opportunity that could change if we don't act. And we have to be very mindful of how quickly we may need to act or decide not to. So it's not just an open-ended thing that we can assume is going to be available whenever we are available. We have to remember they are a party to this, and they've got people advising them on their side that they have to do what's in their best interest as well. Chris, did I leave anything out?
Nope.
So are they, John, are they expecting the towns to act next year?
Yes, they are expecting the towns to act next year. And what Chris and I, Rob, and the other Chris have talked about is we're okay with that, and we're okay with that being their expectation. What we have been talking about is coming back to them to clarify, maybe possibly adjust their expectation of the time that it's going to take to get us to this situation, to this where we're both in the same place.
I mean,
to have a town meeting?
a town of Dover and a town of Westwood.
Correct. Town of Dover, town of Westwood in the same place. One thing that we both need to agree upon is the terms of the conservation restriction. The terms are different for Westwood because Westwood has more of a commitment to the infrastructure, safety for the infrastructure, fire and protection inside of Hale than Dover does.
Yep.
They also have roads. They have the commitment to the road and the maintenance of literally getting equipment in and out, getting people in and out, getting children in and out of Hale. Dover doesn't have that. So it's a bit different from Westwood's perspective. They have to be sure that what they're signing up for is something the citizens of Westwood are going to be agreeing to for a long time.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you both?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. But I mean, if people view this as a once in a lifetime opportunity and one of the highest priorities of the public in Dover, at least, I would, and we're going to try to do this in fiscally in 23. You'd have a third town meeting, and it would be in the October timeframe. And there's a hell of a lot of work that needs to get done on education. Yeah. So I think those realities. I mean, Robin talks about target dates, spurring activity, and I certainly use target dates to spur activity in the past. So I mean, people need to be. Sounds like it's almost like put up or shut up time.
Yeah, there is that, Bob, and then there's also the reality of the conservation summary, the conservation language has to be okay with not only you and Robin and I. It's got to be okay with our town council. It's got to be okay with what we can actually provide, right? And then what Hale is actually capable of providing. And it's, as I said, it's going to be different for Westwood. So that getting that document and having the physical document to the point where everybody in Dover is okay with it all of our legal counsel is okay with it, and it's something that we can defend and we can justify financially to our constituents. Westwood's got to do the same thing. So that's got to be solidified in a time frame, as you just described, Bob, possibly a year from right now, right? A year from this month, or a year from October, a year from sometime around now.
Yeah.
Is that realistic?
Is that
Is
realistic?
that something we can commit to with all the things that we have on our collective plates right now?
And Westwood as well.
And
Right,
Westwood as well.
I think that's the tricky part.
That is the tricky part. Okay.
No, but sort of hopefully the conversations that you and Chris are having with Westwood now will, lead us.
Bear fruit.
Right, bear fruit.
Yeah, it really is. It's been very helpful, and Chris will. It's been very helpful with us to be with and Chris has done all the Chris have done all the heavy lifting in this endeavor.
Oh,
and then there's more to come. Chris and Chris. It's fun that both town administrators' names are Chris. So.
Are they both male Chris's, or is one a female Chris?
Very much both males.
Because that would have made it even more interesting.
Yes.
So that's where we are. It's really something, it's a twist. It's a plot twist for sure, but you also have to think of it from Hale's board's perspective. They got one shot at this. They got to make sure that the amount of money is correct. And they got to make sure that what they get, they can survive on, because they don't get a second opportunity.
Yep.
No,
Okay.
Definitely food for thought. And, you should keep having the conversations, and we should keep having these discussions and make sure that, it's something that we're keeping our eye on as we get resolution of the Carroll Community Center issue.
Yeah. And here's the other part. Remember, what happens if this Carroll Community Center is not the slam dunk that everybody thinks it's going to be, right?
That's why we're hoping options will get us to a yes vote on one of the options. But it was funny that you just verbalized that, because I was thinking that too.
So
I'm confident.
yeah, I think we're all confident. We just have to be mindful that we have these opportunities that require us to act upon them. I know we've talked about prioritizing for all the right reasons. This, to many people, Hale is a priority. It's
Yes.
a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yes.
The Carroll Community Center has been a 24-year work in
Effort.
progress.
Yep.
It's also been a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's just taken 24 years.
It's been a long lifetime.
So I have, I don't have any specific things to bring up as an update, but there are two things I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes on. So I had put together a sort of a rough cut at a RFP for the talk about the communications and branding strategy. And I don't know if people have provided input back into Chris, and so that Chris is in a position to put something together. So that's sort of number one on my list. Then I'm going to stick with communications for a minute. And it just occurred to me over the last week that as we try to do these Board of Selectmen updates on Carroll, we should also be doing updates on other projects of significance. Hale is certainly one of them. And I think we clearly need to just up the game on communications from the board, because there's just a lot of misinformation going about the town. and having a place where people can go for accurate, complete, timely information. There's got to be one strategy for trying to fight against the miscommunication. So those two things I think are important. I know Kate's going to do a presentation soon. I hope part of that covers the Board of Selectmen updates. And the other piece is the town moderator and Andy from the Warren Committee, I think hopefully will be responding to the discussion that we had about changes to our requirements on the on people who proposing warrants. I'd like to make sure that this, I know Chris is going to talk about this. I think he's had a memo went out today to sort of cover in these points. But we really want to be in position to have some of this stuff implemented in November and this particular planning year. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. So Chris, I guess Bob gave you an introduction. Item 1.8 is your update.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, that pretty much covers it. Just want to let you know, we've got a subcontractor coming in to optimize our AV equipment in the Great Hall, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. And I know that's on a upcoming agenda on the 3rd. I did have a question as it relates to communications. I recall having a conversation that it might be preferable to actually move that conversation from October 20th to November 3rd. And I just, I haven't spoken to Kate about that. Hopefully she wouldn't mind, but is that all right with the board if we move that from the 20th to the 3rd?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And Bob, the 20th is, you're not sure if you'll be joining us or not.
Yeah, I'm simply not sure. I don't
Okay.
know.
So then it is good to move that, Chris.
Yeah, there'll be, we have to, as you know now, Robin, there'll be a significant time zone difference. And given the itinerary that we have, I'm not sure I'll have access. I mean, if I'm out in the Mediterranean, it's just not likely I can.
All right. Well, John and I will keep the fort.
Exactly.
Hold the fort.
Robin, you got to make sure John doesn't pull a coup and set us off on a whole different tangent here.
Bob, the
Sell
two of you
down.
won't be available to encourage each other. So now remember, this is Chris is agenda item.
Okay, so next time that 20th, they're going to do like 10 minutes since I won't be here.
Right. Chris is presenting.
That's actually all I have.
All right. Well, thank you. So the next item is the consent agenda. And the consent agenda consists of the following: approval of the October 31st, 2022 Taylor Lane Valley Road Halloween block party. That's a good idea. Approval of November 8th, 2022 state general election warrant. Approval of assignment of constables, police officers to the November 8th state election polling site, and approval of 2022 liquor licenses for October 8th, 9th, 12th, 15th, 16th, 22nd, 23rd, 29th, 29th, and 30th. So I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
And just a reminder, we need to stop by the office and sign off on the special licenses for Mona. Otherwise, she has to chase us down, so we could do something nice for her.
Thank you. All the materials are on the usual round table. They're ready for you.
So I can go tomorrow, Mona?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Mona's taking the day off. I don't know how she knew it was going to be the nicest day of the fall, but
We have a shot for tomorrow as well, I think.
no, tomorrow. She's taking tomorrow if it's supposed to be beautiful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Two in a
So
row.
Mona,
then we're
enjoy
done.
your day, and maybe you will have enough signatures when you
Thank
return.
you.
All right.
So Chris, we covered all?
Yep. So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
Thanks,
And
Chris. Thanks,
To those
Kate.
of
Thanks,
you who have
Mona.
Monday off, have a great long weekend.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.